For centuries, the land between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River was home to many communities living side by side. Muslims, Christians, and Jews lived in towns, villages, and cities across the region, farming the land, trading in markets, and building their lives over generations. Under the Ottoman Empire, which ruled the area for hundreds of years, these communities formed the social and cultural fabric of Palestine. Before we continue, please support our channel by subscribing and sharing this video so more people can learn about important historical events like this one. After World War I, the Ottoman Empire collapsed and the region came under British control as the British Mandate of Palestine. Britain was tasked with governing the territory, while tensions slowly grew between communities with different national aspirations. During the early 20th century, Jewish immigration to Palestine increased significantly. Many Jews were fleeing persecution in Europe and were inspired by the Zionist movement, which aimed to create a Jewish homeland in what they considered their historic land. At the same time, the Arab population of Palestine, who had lived in the region for generations, feared losing their land and political future. As immigration increased and land purchases expanded, tensions between Arab and Jewish communities intensified throughout the 1920s and 1930s. Riots, protests, and armed clashes occurred as both sides struggled over the future of the territory. The situation became even more complicated after World War II and the Holocaust, which created enormous international sympathy for Jewish survivors seeking a safe homeland. Facing rising violence and unable to resolve the conflict, Britain decided to end its rule over Palestine. In 1947, the United Nations proposed a plan to divide the territory into two states, one Jewish and one Arab, with Jerusalem placed under international control. Jewish leaders accepted the plan as a path toward establishing a state. Arab leaders rejected it, arguing that it divided land where the Arab population formed the majority and had lived for centuries. Soon after the proposal, violence broke out between Jewish and Arab forces inside Palestine. Armed militias formed on both sides, and battles spread across cities, villages, and major transportation routes. As the fighting intensified, many Palestinian villages became battle zones. Some communities fled in fear of approaching fighting, while others were forced out during military operations. Villages were damaged, destroyed, or abandoned as the war expanded. Families that had lived in these areas for generations suddenly found themselves displaced from their homes and land. In May 1948, Britain officially ended its mandate and withdrew its forces from Palestine. On May 14th, Jewish leaders declared the establishment of the State of Israel. Within hours, neighboring Arab countries, including Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon, sent their armies into the territory, beginning a larger regional war. The conflict that followed was chaotic and devastating. Cities were bombarded, supply routes were cut, and entire communities were caught in the crossfire. During the war, hundreds of thousands of Palestinian Arabs were displaced from their homes. Many fled advancing battles, while others were expelled or prevented from returning to their towns after the fighting ended. By the end of the war in 1948, around 700,000 Palestinians had become refugees. Hundreds of villages were abandoned or destroyed, and many refugees fled to neighboring areas such as Gaza, the West Bank, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. Palestinians remember these events as the Nakba, meaning the catastrophe, marking the loss of homes, land, and communities. When the war ended through armistice agreements in 1949, the newly created State of Israel controlled more territory than originally proposed in the United Nations Partition Plan. The Gaza Strip came under Egyptian administration, while the West Bank was controlled by Jordan. The map of the region had been dramatically reshaped. For Palestinians, the events of 1948 represented the loss of their homeland and the beginning of a long refugee crisis that continues to affect generations today. For Israelis, the same events marked the creation of a new state after centuries of displacement and persecution. The year 1948 permanently transformed the Middle East. The conflict created deep political, territorial, and humanitarian challenges that still influence the region today. Questions about land, borders, refugees, and national identity remain unresolved. More than 70 years later, the legacy of 1948 continues to shape the lives of millions of people and remains one of the most significant and debated moments in modern history.